You might be wondering what you're looking at here. See that fin? These fish are swimming so close to the banks of the Mississippi River because they're spawning.
Oh, they got one!
The females are releasing eggs onto the rocks by the shore so that the males can fertilize them. With most other fish in the Mississippi, spawning wouldn't be such a huge deal. But these fish are lake sturgeon.
Well, lake sturgeon are one of 3 sturgeon species that we have in Missouri. They're an ancient species.
Sarah Pieper is a fisheries biologist for the Missouri Department of Conservation. She says that until 2015, lake sturgeon hadn't spawned in this area of the Mississippi since at least the early 1900s.
In 2015, a couple of anglers were fishing in the tailwaters of Mill Price Lock and Dam, and they took a video of sturgeon spawning and sent it to us. That was the first time lake sturgeon had spawned in Missouri in modern history, for decades at least, if not, 100 years or more.
Pieper says a number of reasons led to the decline in the lake sturgeon population.
Lake sturgeon were functionally extirpated from Missouri by the early 1900s. That was due in large part to overfishing. There was a lot of commercial fishing for sturgeon during that time, for food, for caviar. Also, they were sort of deemed a rough fish or a trash fish. They would get into commercial anglers' nets and they didn't like it, and so they just killed them.
Pollution, poor water quality, and habitat destruction also contributed to the decline. So when the sturgeon were spawning again in the Mississippi, it meant the conditions were improving for the fish. But to better the conditions even more, the Mel Price Lock and Dam in Alton, Illinois would need to adjust. Ryan Swearingen, a biologist with the Army Corps of Engineers, says this effort took off in 2020.
We kind of came up with an idea that perhaps we could manipulate the flows below Mill Price and potentially create better spawning habitat there.
So the Missouri Department of Conservation and the Army Corps of Engineers teamed up. Pieper says the Missouri Department of Conservation hadn't been able to verify any more spawning events for several years after 2015. So in 2022, the 2 teams worked together on a plan to change the flow of the dam to replicate the conditions during the 2015 spawning.
Everything came together and it worked. The lake sturgeon spawned there.
Another major part of the effort to increase the population is tagging and tracking the lake sturgeon in the area. We tagged along, pun intended, in late March to watch them work.
We need to go up and check our lines one last time, if that's all right. We're trying to catch them so we can implant transmitters. The telemetry transmitters we're able to follow. We can follow the fish, we can find what habitats they're using, and learn more about how they're using the area here.
For the first 4 to 5 lines, they didn't catch any lake sturgeon, although they brought in some blue catfish and shovelhead sturgeon. Eventually, a juvenile lake sturgeon was caught and tagged. It was too small to receive a transmitter and still had many years to go before it could spawn.
Squeeze it out and then back the needle out as you push.
Lake sturgeon often don't spawn until their 20s or 30s because some live to be over 100 years old. After checking some more lines, we finally got to see some adult lake sturgeon. The adults they catch are given a small surgery to implant a transmitter. The transmitter allows the MDC to track the sturgeon on their long migration routes.
We have had some of our transmitted fish show up in Illinois, Arkansas, South Dakota, Kansas. They can move all over the place.
That's Travis Moore, the lake sturgeon recovery leader for the MDC. He says one of the most important parts of a lake sturgeon's migration is where it spawns, and the fish need very specific conditions to do this.
They need that faster flow, and they need that rocky substrate. And so that faster water moving over it, the eggs are sticky, so they'll adhere to the rocks. They'll take about a week to 10 days to mature.
In mid-April, we joined the team again to see the fish spawn.
So we can see the fish occasionally up on shore, but they haven't been as active close to shore as they were in previous years. That doesn't mean they're not here, it just means they're in deeper water.
Sarah and her team caught a few fish who were actively spawning.
We can just use dip nets sometimes and catch the fish on the shoreline. And we'll bring them into shore, weigh them, measure them, and check them for tags. And then we're also checking them for spawning condition. Are they flowing eggs? Are they flowing milt?
For the last 3 years, this spot near the Mel Price Lock and Dam was the only lake sturgeon spawning location in Missouri. But this April, Sarah and her team received exciting news from the Ozarks.
We've had a cooperative research project between the Missouri Department of Conservation and Mizzou to research possible spawning on the Osage River. And this year they were able to confirm that lake sturgeon are spawning on the Osage.
Moore says it's important for average people to tell the MDC if they see any mating behaviors from the lake sturgeon, especially if it's not near the Mel Price Lock and Dam.
So you may see them cruising the surface of the water and that dorsal fin or the tail will stick out. Some folks say it looks like sharks. And if you see that, that's just a male that's cruising along out there. You may see them leap out of the water or porpoise as well. So if you see that, report that activity.
And if you accidentally catch a lake sturgeon somewhere, Moore says you should release it and tell the Department of Conservation where you saw it. Moving forward, Ryan Swearingen says the team will be working with dams up and down the Mississippi to track the fish.
We've recently started an effort where we're going to take kind of a high-level look at all of the locks and dams on the main stem of the Mississippi River for the potential applicability of this project at other locks and dams. So we're coordinating with our other districts upstream in Rock Island and St. Paul to see if there's potential conditions that could be created there for lake sturgeon as well.
Biodiversity is really important for ecosystem function. And if as we lose species, our ecosystems degrade, and that's a problem for everything on this planet when our ecosystems degrade, including us.
For Living St. Louis, I'm Veronica Moheski.